included. So that's just a major part of like why I chose like being a CA, being a lead peer mentor, just making sure that people's like first year and Cyclonade, like people's first year, they build a community and feel part of Iowa State.
So I joined the leadership roles that I'm a part of now due to I genuinely did not feel a part of the engineering community when I first got here. It was very heavily dominated by, white male students, a few females in my major, but it still didn't really feel like I belonged there or I felt, a connection to my peers. And so NSBE really helped me connect with other engineers on that cultural level, as well as help me, go outside of that area, because now that I'm actually stepping outside of my comfort zone in NSBE, I can do that in other spaces where I am probably one of very few multicultural people. So
Yeah, for my leadership roles, I was actually kind of inspired by Christian because Christian was my peer mentor freshman year, and so just reiterating his points of wanting to help people, which is why I took on my role in lead, and I've definitely found that to be the case. But other than that, for Engineers Without Borders, I took on that leadership role just because I feel like I have like a goal set for what I kind of want to see our project become. And I kind of wanted to help the club like in leading the club towards that goal. And I thought the only way to really do that would be to take on a higher leadership role, which is kind of what led me to that position.
All right, thank y'all very much. Next question. Does your identity as a student of color and or female student impact your decision to participate in certain activities? Why or why not? Oops. And we'll start with, how about Chaz?
Yeah, so I would say it comes down to what type of activities you're kind of choosing to participate in and the crowd you're going to be around. I would say, for example, just bringing up NSBE again, there's always like that comfortable feeling of just going to NSBE events just because you feel like you can relate to everybody. There's different topics that concern you and you're kind of knowledgeable about. As to some other events that might be happening on campus, sometimes you might be the only one that kind of like identifies as like a student of color there, and sometimes that can be a little trying to think of the word intimidating, just because it might be harder to connect with other students. You might not share the same experiences. You might almost view yourself as like kind of like an outcast at those events. But there's some social understanding to kind of like view from yourself. Like there is some connection you can kind of have with students outside of your circle. You just need to kind of find that relevance. But yeah, just I guess it does kind of impact on my decision on participating in certain events.
I would say in the beginning of my college experience, it definitely did. Me being a Black female definitely did. I guess in the beginning, I chose not to do certain events because it's like, oh, I'm gonna be one of few, or I'm not gonna really know anyone, or I'm not gonna really be able to relate to anybody. But now, being more comfortable in my college experience and the things that I'm a part of, I definitely put myself in these spaces where I might be the only person of color, the only female who's, maybe an engineer or talking about certain topics because I want to share my experiences in order to, you know, show other people like kind of the things that multicultural students go through.
I can share next. I would say yes. I think that one like big thing, like it was really nice to have like Shep, for example, um, to kind of participate in activities with Shep because I kind of felt more comfortable. And it definitely does impact my decision to participate in certain activities, specifically like even like software engineering activities like hackathons or something like that. Just like gonna like I guess just be honest. I was kind of ridiculed, I guess, in a way. Being a student of color in high school, like I was like not really like common for someone that looked like me to be an engineer, I would say. So I felt like it was just more so like being made fun of and stuff like that. So it's just like I I was kind of like didn't feel comfortable like participating in events like that because I felt like what I look like because I'm a student of color, like is people gonna think of me differently? Like am I gonna be able to like kind of like say like my give input into how I feel about like a topic we're discussing or something like that, or people think that I'm like skilled at what I'm doing. So that definitely impacts my decision in being a student of color. Like it early on it did, but now so I'm more like comfortable, I would say. And I would say like specifically, like it made me feel more comfortable. I think they do a great job with like students of color in like Shep and as being organization and lead too. So
Yeah, I know at first, when I my transition to Iowa State before my first fall semester, I was part of Apex, and after that, I was like in the lead learning community. Those two things really helped me kind of like lose the shyness I had as a student of color who just got to Iowa like 2 seconds ago. So just being able to learn from my fellow multicultural peers and understanding how leadership positions work at Iowa State really helped me just do what I wanted on campus. And I felt included in the leadership positions I seeked out.
Yeah, I think my identity as a student of color has definitely impacted, just like how I participate in certain activities. Um, I'd say it makes me a lot more intentional about being involved in a multicultural community because when you're surrounded by people that are mainly white and male, it's easy just to get stuck in that bubble. Um, and I think I didn't really realize it at first, but in being a part of lead, I kind of realized like this community is really important, especially when you have a group of people that actually get where you're coming from like a cultural standpoint. um, so I think lead has been a big part of my college experience just because it is that connection to like my culture and my family basically. um, so yeah, I'd say it just makes me more intentional about going out and pursuing certain things.
Very good. Thank you very much. Next question. What has been the most challenging aspect of being a multicultural and or female identifying student leader, or a multicultural and or female identifying student leader in engineering specifically? And we'll start with Makeda.
This is a hard one. Um, I would definitely say a hard thing is um realize it was for me. I guess it doesn't really have to do with me being a female, but somewhat of like a multicultural engineering student was to basically motivate myself and be able to tell myself like, okay, I can actually do this. Like this is something I can obtain. Because it's just when you look around in your classroom and you genuinely don't see anyone who looks like you, you're like, okay, clearly I don't belong in this space. But I mean, going through my classes, I had to prove to myself literally every day that I could do what I'm doing. I would say that was my hardest challenge and something I'm still going through. I believe I'll be going through it, until I graduate, really. But yeah.
Um, so I like to add on. I'd say a very challenging aspect of being a multicultural leader, I think that everybody can relate on is dealing with like imposter syndrome. And correct me if I'm wrong, but like imposter syndrome is just feeling like you don't belong in a certain area when you do, just based off of how you kind of perceive yourself. And I feel like as a multicultural student, you kind of add more intensity to imposter syndrome just because of how you identify as yourself. Um, because when you go into classrooms or different leadership panels or different even internships, you might be the only one that might be like multicultural student in that room, and that can kind of weigh in a lot about your confidence to do stuff and just taking on leadership roles. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges to face and kind of understand that you do belong in these areas and like you're just as capable or even more capable than your peers to do different activities. So I'd say that's the most challenging thing.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I feel like sometimes I kind of question myself about how I got a leadership position because I could think it, or a lot of the time I think it's just experience, but at the same time, there's always that thought in the back of my head, like, what if I'm just getting this position just because I am Asian and I'm like the minority, the face of the, you know, I hit the diversity quota basically. So that's definitely been a big thing, and that's something I have to like challenge myself on whenever I like think it. But I think another challenging aspect for me has been also being the face of kind of my race, seeing as though there's only like one or two people that are like Asian in like certain clubs that I'm in. So kind of feeling that responsibility of like you're representing all Asians, especially with like the reputation of Asians being the model minority, and that's just like a something you just can't live up to like ever. So feeling that pressure and knowing that you're not going to be able to like live up to that, just being able to like live with the idea that like okay, I'm definitely not perfect, and I'm never going to be able to achieve that. But like I can still do my best to show like my peers where I'm coming from and that that's like who I am.
I can go. So I definitely agree with what the others said. And like 2 points I wanted to mention is that one with what Chaz was mentioning about like not really seeing, like on your internships and like classroom and stuff, not seeing people like of color who are in like a leadership position. That is very true. So like going back to like growing up, a lot of my every probably I don't think I've ever had a teacher or had some sort of like coach or any actually one coach that was a person of color. So when I actually did Apex as well, and when I came to Apex, it was in a way a little uncomfortable for me because I wasn't used to being around just just only people of color. Like that was the most like strange experience for me, which it shouldn't be that way. Like it should be that a person of color should be able to be in a leadership position. They can succeed just as well as anyone else. And that was what was challenging about me because I felt like I would never be able to be in that a leadership position like that because I am a person of color. So that is what was challenging for me. I felt like I wasn't really fit for a position like that, but I needed to get out of my comfort zone to be a leader because I knew I could do it and it's something that I wanted to do. So yeah, that's why it was challenging for me being a multicultural leader.
Something that was challenging for me is knowing that sometimes other people have expectations of where I'm coming from that aren't necessarily true, or expectations of like what I would act like in a leadership position. So just making sure to be very like open about where you're coming from, making sure you communicate like exactly what you mean is like crucial as a multicultural leader.
Wonderful, thank you. And our last question that I have, and then I'll open it up to the students that have joined us in the audience today. So I always got to end with the good, right? So what has been the most rewarding aspect of being a multicultural and/or female identifying student leader, a multicultural and/or female identifying student leader in engineering? And we'll lead out with Joe.
I think because I have to be a lot more intentional about finding a multicultural community, it's actually led to me being able to hear more diverse stories, especially in lead. So I grew up in Wheaton, which is a very, very white suburban suburb in like off of Chicago. And it was diverse, but pretty white. So I was able to like connect with other people there. But after I came here and it was even more white and I had to like seek out diversity, I've been able to hear a lot more people's stories. So like I could say I'm from Chicago, but I'm not actually from Chicago. And like last year I was able to meet people from Chicago, like the actual city. And to be able to hear their stories and be able to learn about like where they're coming from um, was just super rewarding because I don't think there were stories that I would have ever heard had I just stayed in my normal bubble. So I think just being intentional has been rewarding just because I've been able to increase like my awareness and like diversity.
I would yeah, so I would also say the most rewarding aspect of being multicultural student leader is just being that figure that that you can kind of like look up to, because like in the classroom or just growing up in general, like there weren't a lot of multicultural leadership role models that you can kind of like find or kind of have somebody to follow. So just being that figure for someone else is kind of rewarding. Knowing that like you are that multicultural leader that somebody can actually look up to.
I would definitely say the most rewarding part of being a female multicultural um, student is, well, specifically in engineering, was definitely going back and talking to freshmen or younger students and really basically just telling my stories to them and really talking to them and understanding like where they're coming from and telling them and relating to them exactly how I felt when I was in their position and showing them like my progress and how I got to where I am now and really helping them understand that they can do it if they really, really want to.
Yeah, definitely agree with what everyone just said. Just being able to be that person that inspires people like, hey, this is possible. This is something that I can do. Like there's people in these spaces. I am welcome. I am like capable. I can do these things. It's just like very rewarding because sometimes like you lose focus of that, and it's important to um like understand and pass forward the feeling of people like of empowerment, if that makes sense.
I can hand it off. So I would say the most rewarding aspect mostly for me is well, I guess it's more. more aspects. I really enjoy helping others and having someone look up to me. It's really nice to be able to put a smile on people's faces each day and help them in ways that in any way you can. Um, and ultimately being, like Chaz mentioned, a role model, like how a role model and leader to the students. And the one other thing too, I think is pretty cool as well, is watching them grow. So I was, for most of the panelists, I think besides Julian, I was their mentor at some point. So it's really cool being able to see them here talking with me as well on a panel, and seeing all of them really excel in their careers at Iowa State. So that's one of like the really like I think that's probably the most rewarding aspect of being a leader, is seeing your mentees grow into being leaders and awesome engineers as well. So
All right, thank y'all very much, peer mentors, for sharing. I think you touched upon everything that I wanted you to share with the group, and I appreciate you being brutally open and honest in your experience, because I think it just helps give perspective to the different experiences that our different populations of students are having on campus and in the College of Engineering. So I'm going to open it up for a few minutes here for our students in the room to ask questions of our panelists if you have them. And you can unmute yourself and ask your question, or you can put it in the chat box and I can read it from there.
Dr. Ancar, are you able to read the Q&A box, or does it not show up for you?
Just one second. Is it it's a different, okay. I got it pulled up now.
Got it? Okay, perfect.
All right, thank you for that. Let's see. Let's see what we got. Oh, we do, we have, make sure y'all can hear me, okay. What has been an encouraging interaction or situation that you've encountered with a non-multicultural student? How can we as non-multicultural students create more of those situations for multicultural students? So what has been an encouraging interaction or situation that you've encountered with a non-multicultural student?
My specific experience is not necessarily like big or anything like that. I would just say, sorry about my voice, guys, allergies. I would just say that connecting with the people in my lab groups and in my classes who were not multicultural students and really stepping out of my comfort zone, and then in return, them being responsive of the fact that I am, an African American and a female, and really being open to having, tough conversations about, how I feel in these spaces that are heavily dominated with, non-multicultural people, is really encouraging. Like, it really helps me connect with them and be able to connect with other non-multicultural people, because it showed me like, okay, maybe some of the stereotypes and things that I perceived about non-multicultural people are wrong. Maybe they're not always, not necessarily willing to listen. Some of them actually want to know and understand how we feel and how we interact in these spaces and how we work best in these spaces. So I would just say, for non-multicultural students, just be willing to connect and listen, really.
Yeah, I like to add on to what Makeda said, with like lab. Sometimes just, yeah, reaching out and like choosing, or like talking to other multicultural students is nice as well. Sometimes lab can feel like, I don't know, like gym, where like you're picking your teammates and like you don't want to be the last one being chosen. So, so just like reaching out and like working with other students, is nice. And also, showing up to different multicultural events are nice as well. NSBE will host like fundraisers or same with SHIP, they'll host fundraisers or different like blacklight dodgeballs and stuff. It's not just for multicultural students, for everyone. And just seeing all different types of students showing up is kind of nice and rewarding. Just understand like these people share your values. They're here for support. So.
Yeah, for me, in specifically in like smaller groups, being like heard and not like dismissed, is like really important. Like it's a good interaction I have. I feel like just being inclusive and making sure you're hearing everyone out before like passing judgment on things is definitely like basis of just creating a good situation for multicultural students.
Yeah, I think being able to talk to other people that like I lead with about race that are not that are white, that's just been super encouraging just because of the way that because we're already leading together and we're already friends. Just being able to have that conversation as friends instead of just like two opposite sides, and for them to well, I know that they're listening to what I have to say. That's been super encouraging. Um, and I think for the second part of the question, how do we create more of those spaces? I think it just starts with becoming friends with other people that you wouldn't normally have become friends with. And that includes people that are white and also from like the other side of like of your political spectrum sometimes, because those are like the conversations that I think are the really important ones where you definitely wouldn't have had and they're pretty uncomfortable, but when you can become friends with like people that hold different beliefs than you and you actually talk to them, that's I think how you can really like make a change.
And so for me, I think those are good questions. In terms of an encouraging interactions, I think it's disappointing to me. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I in high school though that's in terms of in college, but in high school I do have friends that are not multicultural, and one thing that I really appreciate with one of my friends is that he's always willing to listen to me, and no matter what I talk to him about, he always like values what I tell him, or in anything that I tell him about, because he wants to learn more and how to be like a someone who's supportive for the multicultural community as well. And it was also nice to see people like non-multicultural students attending chef events as well. I think that was really nice to see, like other people like are really interested in becoming a part of the community and listening ultimately. And I think that how you can create more of those situations is like what Joe says, becoming friends with them, and also like just listening to them as well. And I think that's huge. I think that's what a lot of us as multicultural students want, is for others to listen to us and what we have to say.
All right, thank y'all for those candid responses. I appreciate it. So we have one more question in the Q&A box. And so I'm gonna have you stick to who's one person, one answer, okay? So we can get through this question, and then because we only have 5 minutes left, and I just want to get to my last slide to give folks some action items or things that they can do to further themselves in this particular area. And then as far as the case studies go, I am happy to share those with the ELT leadership, and they can share that with the larger group. So the question is, or it says, thank you for taking the time to share your stories. As you are all role models for students of color, multicultural students, who are your role models and what do you look for in a role model? So who is your role model and what is one thing that you look for in a role model? And we're gonna start with Chaz.
Sorry, I was having technical difficulties. I won't be cheesy, but honestly, Dr. Ancar is my role model. Um, just because the qualities role model that I kind of look for is just outreaching and I guess passion and never like giving up into people that they believe in. So.
I wholeheartedly agree. Dr. Ankar definitely has been a role model to me since my freshman year. What I look for is someone. I I talk a lot, y'all. I talk a lot, and I got a lot to say. And I look for someone. One, usually I would like to able to relate to the person I look up to culturally. So someone who looks like me, usually a female. So yeah, and she also just is always willing to listen. Just always. I've been in her office, of course, before COVID, been in her office for hours just talking about normal things. Just like it's not even necessarily just about school, it could be about home life. I can talk to her about absolutely anything, and she's a wonderful resource whenever I have any issue, whether it be personal or professional or educational. So I would definitely say Dr. Ankar.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Dr. Ankar is one of the most like caring people in Iowa State. She's like, if anything happens, like she's there. She'll be there for you, and definitely has inspired me to just go and go get leadership. Like try to do my best in college and like just be the best version of myself.
I'll go. So Dr. Ancar, I'm gonna say you're my role model too. I definitely, there's a lot of people I look up to. Dr. Ancar, you're definitely one of them. I know I've told you so many times about how much like you've impacted my college experience, like so much. Like you made Iowa State feel like home to me ultimately. So it was it's such a it's really awesome to have you in just in my life in general and being a role model to me. And the other person I know I'll stick to one person, but the other person is my twin brother as well. So but yeah, Dr. Ankar, thank you so much. It's always awesome to talk with you, and you're really like someone I aspire to be as I get older. So
Yeah, I'm gonna have to continue the trend. And I agree with Dr. Ankar. Just because of the way that, like as Makeda was saying, about how you can just pop into her office and just have her listen. And I think that's like the main thing that I look for in a role model. So just somebody who will listen to you and really does care about your growth as both a student and also a person. And I think that's what Dr. Ankar just does for everybody that she talks with, which is why she is all of our role models.
Thank y'all so much for that. And I did not pay them to say that, any of that. I appreciate y'all, big heart. But that just means that I'm living on purpose. I'm doing what I was meant to be doing if I'm having that level of impact on all of you. We've reached 11 o'clock and I hate that we have run out of time. But I am happy to share my slides. As well as the case studies, like I said, with the ELT leadership for them to be able to share that with you all that joined us for our session today. Thank you so much. Special thanks to the peer mentors for being here, taking some time out on a Saturday morning. It's 8 o'clock where Christian is at, so super thank you for showing up this morning for us. And Joshua, do you have anything to say to the group?
Nope. We would just really like to thank you guys for coming and speaking. for the conference today on a Saturday. And thanks for your continued support of the conference the last few years.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate y'all very much. To all the peer mentors, I will be in touch. Enjoy the rest of y'all Saturday. Have a good weekend, right? Go Cyclones. Thank y'all. See y'all soon.
Bye, everyone.
Uh,
Bye.